the most important thing in a recap video, or the most important content that you will get from the event, is the testimonials from the people who are attending the event.
You're tuned in to the Event Gems podcast, the podcast where coaches, consultants, and speakers learn how to produce transformational and profitable events. I'm your host, Natasha Wright, Chief Experience Curator at the Diamond Butterfly. Join me and other industry experts as we teach you how to maximize the power of your next brand building event. Time to drop those gems. Let's fly. Hey Trailblazers, welcome to another episode of Event Gems. Today I am so excited to welcome the videographer extraordinaire, Ryant Nelson, to the show. Ryant is a highly accomplished professional with a background in electrical engineering. He earned his bachelor's degree in the field and went on to work as a quality and test engineer for 6 years. In 2021, Ryant made the bold decision to leave his job and pursue his entrepreneurial ambitions. His hard work and dedication paid off as he successfully built a profitable business called Real Designs Media. In his first year as a business owner, Ryant generated 6 figures in his business. He is originally from Natchez, I hope that I'm pronouncing that properly, Mississippi, where he has been able to establish a presence in the local business community. Welcome, Ryan. How you doing?
Hey. I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
I hope I didn't mess up your city. I know before the call, I said, is this how I pronounce it? And I think I got it right, but I might have messed it up just now.
It's Natchez, but it's all good. It's all good.
Okay. Yeah. All right, awesome. All right, so as you guys know, for the new year, I'm going to be renaming the This and That segment to Insight Gems. So this is going to give us an opportunity to really get some insight into who Ryant is, learn a little bit more about his preferences, and, learn some fun stuff along the way. So, Ryant, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
yes, ma'am.
All right, let's go. All right, so would you rather test the waters or dive in the deep end?
Test
the waters. All right. Mm-hmm. Would you rather have a call the first thing in the morning or a call in the middle of the night?
First thing in the morning.
Group hangout or one-on-one hangout?
Ooh, one-on-one.
One-on-one. All right. Do you prefer weekends or holidays?
Weekends.
Okay, me too. Yeah, for sure. You get more of them. Okay. Do you save as you go or do you save at the end?
Do I save as I go or do I save at the end?
Ooh. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Well, it's a tricky one, huh?
It depends. It depends.
Well, you got to give us an answer, sir.
All right, as I go.
As you go. All right. And do you rather have a USB backup or cloud storage? Cloud storage. All right. Awesome. I hope you guys learned some things about Ryant with that Inside Gem segment. I for sure did. So I am excited for us to jump into this conversation and really talk more about how we can utilize video and the knowledge of a videographer for our events and even just in our business, right? So, Ryant, one of the things that I realized is that you are my first male guest.
Let's go.
So welcome. Ryant is popping the Event Gems cherry as being the first male guest. And I'm going to start being a little bit more intentional about having a diversity of guests on here.
Yeah, get my guys on here. Come on.
Get them a chance. Okay. All right. So Ryant, just tell us a little bit more about yourself and your business and the services that you provide.
Well, I am the owner of Real Designs Media. And we are a media company that provides social media and event coverage for small businesses and entrepreneurs. So we realized that when I started the business in 2021, I realized that we were coming into this content boom. It was in the middle of a pandemic and there were a lot of small business owners who had great brands, but the content that they were putting out or the content that represented their brand didn't really match their image. And so there was a hole in the market. And of course, you can get very, very high level production and it's super duper expensive. It's logistically impossible in some cases. You might go to a hotel in a city and you see they've shut down like a corner or something like that so they can do filming. And small business owners, we don't have that ability. We don't have the financial runway to do something at that scale, but we still need to represent our brand to be able to compete with these large corporations. So as a small business owner, I saw the value in being able to create very classy, very polished, high quality content. And so that's what we strive to provide. And we provide a lot of it for our clients.
Yeah, I love that. It's so necessary, right? What is that saying? Content is king, especially right now, for business owners. It's really a chance for us to have the broadest reach possible, right? And if you guys go on to Ryant's page, like the video quality and the content that he puts out is stellar. So you definitely want to make sure that you check out the work that he does. I found you online and it was an event recap or something that you did. And I was like, oh, this is dope. This looks so crisp. And so I really wanted to have you on and connect with you. But I think there is such a distinction between, or I think, but you can tell us, right? I feel like there's a distinction between videographer versus an event videographer. Is there a difference, or when people are thinking about hiring someone for their event, what are some things that they should be looking for?
So in terms of, the differences between an event videographer and other types of videographer niches, they're all like niches, right? And like a niche represents the unique problems that the client has. The cool thing about events are that they are what I call scripted, unplanned projects. What I mean by that is you have an agenda, you have a run of show for your event. And so, weeks, months before that event, you have an expectation of how everything is going to flow, but you're not really sure exactly how it's going to unfold.
Yeah, and so true. So true. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it has
the things that you think are the things that you do expect, it doesn't happen. And you have to, be flexible and shift on the fly for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the cool thing about it is that if we sidebar over and look at some of the social media content that is the most viral, it's those moments that weren't scripted, that weren't planned. It's like, you're like, how did anyone even get that on camera? You know what I'm saying? Right. How are they ready for that?
You're like, oh my God, that was a moment. I love those moments, right? It gives energy to you and emotion to you, and it really makes you connect with whatever that thing is that you're witnessing. So yeah, for sure.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So an event is essentially you as the client. When you're planning your event, you're setting the stage for something like that to occur. And so you get the novelty, but you also get the space for it to happen. And so what that produces is tons of opportunities for those potentially viral moments, or potential moments to add that nostalgia or that relatability. And as an event producer, your production team needs to be ready to capture those moments. They need to be in the right places at the right times. They need to be able to anticipate patterns, from event to event to event. Like, what that brow is going to look like when somebody's about to start crying. And
oh, that's good.
You got to go over there and get it.
You capture the emotion in that, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it sounds like what you're saying, you have to have some sort of like intuition as well, right? Like have some intuition about human emotion to really capture things that other people might not be able to see.
Yeah, you either have to be quick on your feet, or you have to have that decision tree mapped out in your head, because on a regular set, if we were to film something that was scripted, on a regular set, we've got time to plan out every shot. We've got time to make sure that the camera settings are right. We have time to do all of that stuff and get it right. At an event, you don't have time to look down to see if your settings are right. You know, you have to do that while you're walking over here to get a shot. And while you're getting that shot, you can't be looking at the camera. You got to be looking around to pay attention at the next shot that you got to go and get. So it's a very fast paced environment. And you'll see the production teams that do it the best are the ones that capture those moments. And they are typically the people who have the team members who are able to just move quickly, consistently, and deliberately.
Yeah, as you were talking about that, that's immediately what I thought. I was like, wait a minute, like you have to have a team, right? You have to have a solid team because a lot of times when I've worked on events, it's one videographer, it's the one guy, you know, it might be one guy and he might have a team member and the team member is taking pictures. The
That's
team
a
member
brave
isn't
man.
So it's like he's a videographer, he's a photographer, and that's it, right? But what you're saying is if you want the content, or what I hear you saying, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is if you want to have a more dynamic, right, capturing of what is happening at your event, you're going to want someone who's having multiple people on their team who's capturing the video, not just one person, because that one person alone is not going to be able to see everything that's happening, especially if you have an event that's pretty large.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing about that is one person can technically cover the event. The recap video is just not going to be as good because they can only be so many places at one time. I went out to California with some friends. They were going to an event, and I like going to events and just shooting a few clips and putting together a video from it. And even then, when I went out there, I had a camera going to get the stuff that I need, and I needed to step away from the camera with another camera to go and get the stuff that I want. And so that's the benefit of having a team, because when you're at an event, there is stuff that you have to get. You have to get testimonials. You have to get A-roll, which is the sessions on stage. Some people host events like award events and stuff like that. Okay, maybe you can do a recap video without getting like everything that's said, but the main things that are said on stage, that's the great content. It's not the sexy content except when it's used properly. And so if one person is going to shoot an event, they have to get that session on stage and then they have to get B-roll. But if they're focusing on getting B-roll, so this recap video ain't dry, and they got that camera and they got that camera sitting over there running unmanned by itself, and they don't have the bandwidth to go and check that camera to make sure that nobody bumped it, it's not out of focus, it's not, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're risking that, and you get away with it sometimes. But for that reliability and to always get, you know, what you need to get every time, if you're having a big event that actually gets ticket sales and you have an offer at the end of it and all of that stuff, you need to have consistency and reliability, and that takes more than one person.
I really like talking to people at different stages in their journey. So for someone who's just starting out, they're doing their event, they might not have the budget to hire someone. So it might be the photographer. The photographer is the videographer, or it's their friend, or they don't even have the budget to do that, right? I want to talk to those people about like what are some things that they need to be capturing. And then for someone else who now they're at the stage where they have a larger budget, they can hire a production team, they can hire someone like you who have multiple people on their team to really capture those moments and those dynamic moments, really. So can you talk to those two stages of business owners on what they need to be capturing, and when they get to the level where they're going to hire someone like you, what are some questions that they should be asking?
So that's a great question. So my philosophy is, if you're an event planner and you're about to start an event, and this goes for every aspect of your event, you may not have the capital to hire the best of the best for every stage of your event, but you may have the capital to hire them as consultants. So
Oh, that's a good point.
my recommendation is to pay to consult with a team that you want to work with in the future. Consult with them and find out what you need. And in terms of hiring someone to execute, there may be a couple of areas that they can help you with, and then they can help you help yourself with everything else. So for example, I consult on events, and there's some instances where they would want to work with us, and they need us to record A-roll, record B-roll. They want raw footage, which is very valuable, and they also want a recap video. Okay, well, if they don't have the budget, then we can definitely send a person there to make sure that the audio gets recorded properly. And if you're looking to hire a videographer to help, which is your other question, you can pay us to just make sure that the footage is secure. We're not going to help that person to produce what we can produce, but we can make sure that that person get what's needed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's sort of like a manager. Okay.
Yeah. It's like the event content manager almost. Like I hear you saying, all right, listen, you might not be able to hire, but these are some, we can consult with you on what are some of the things that you need to ensure that you're having the best video, the best audio, and even if it's someone who is not as highly skilled as you and your team, then they can consult with you on what are some things that might work best. Yeah, I think that for sure makes sense.
Because if this is your first event, and budget is a consideration, then 9 times out of 10, it's not gonna be at the MGM Grand. You know what I mean? It's not gonna be the type of venue that takes advantage of what we would produce anyway.
Yeah.
So
and a lot of venues don't even have audio visual. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna have to bring in your own sound. You can probably bring that in from the DJ. You're gonna have to bring in your own, sound for the mic. Anything else like that, you're not gonna necessarily get any type of support with. You're just gonna get the raw space.
Yep, most of the places you're gonna have to bring stuff in to fill that space, and so your priority is to collect as much branded content as possible. So you want to pay for the raw footage.
So then go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, like, you want raw footage, and you want the whole session recorded on stage.
All right, so let's talk about raw footage. What exactly is that?
Raw footage is just everything that we record. We include it in a lot of our packages, but whenever you hire a videographer to come and do your event, they come and they shoot and they produce a recap video. Let's say all you asked for was a recap video. Then they're going to send you a recap video. You're going to get that one video. But the raw footage are all the clips that they shot to be able to get to that. Because they only use 20 to 30% of the total footage that they collected to make the video. They just pick the best clips. So
that's good.
If you have a content that you're planning on hosting annually or monthly or quarterly, you need to be able to continuously generate content to market that event. You should be putting out content all year. If you got an event in May, you need to be making content to put out right now. So the raw footage gives you flexibility to be able to hire an editing team. What we do for our clients is we store their content on the cloud. So
that's good.
A few of our clients, we have like a footage library where we just have footage of them. We've got footage of them talking. We've got footage of them doing stuff from where, like, we traveled for a few days on an event and we collected footage from the event, around the event. Like, that is useful material later. And it's stuff that you don't necessarily feel like you want to pay for right now, because in the moment you're like, I just need to show everybody that this event was lit. Give me the recap video. I don't need, why you bringing 3 people? Why you bringing 4 people? Well, it's also the quality of your footage is also important. So last year there was a person who, they were hosting an event. I don't know if it was their first or second event, but they were hosting an event, and we gave them a quote. They got a bid for something that was more in line with what their budget was. And when they got their content back, they called us and asked if we could do anything.
After the fact?
Yeah, because the footage that they got, the videographer that they hired was, they were shooting in a format that only other filmmakers and editors understand. But they didn't fully understand
the person
it.
wasn't able to do anything with that footage then, is what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. But not only that, the videographer didn't know what he was doing. So here's the thing. Right now, cameras that are capable of doing like film cameras, cinema cameras are very, very accessible and affordable. And so it's kind of like, whereas it used to be where you only gain access to a certain level of tools when you were like at that certain level in your stage of career, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to afford to have access to it. Now you instantly got access. You got a couple $1,000, you can get a cinema camera. They make the kind that can fit in your pocket. What I'm talking on right now is a cinema camera that I got out of my backpack. So there's certain formats that the film industry shoot in, and it's a very flat, dingy looking format, but it's designed to be that way because they light everything to perfection, and then they send it to a colorist. Well, this particular videographer, he shot all of that content in that format at an event. Now think about the last few events that you've been to. They had uneven lighting. There's probably kind of dim in there.
Yeah.
That's
set
not
in the mood
environment.
Sometimes.
Because the focus is on the live audience. It's not on the people who are going to be doing it after the fact. So they're going to set the lighting to fit the live audience. But that's not the optimal scenario for a cinema camera. So there's certain formats that you don't want to approach when you don't have that perfect lighting. And this videographer shot in that format, made a video from it. It looked dingy. It was bad. Another thing is like, if you want us to edit something for you, especially a recap video, there's some instances where we tell them we can't do anything with that footage, because that becomes our work. You know what I mean? It ended up costing them more money on the back end.
Of course.
To make a video that still didn't give the quality that we would have provided. And even if he had consulted with us, maybe, okay, you're out of budget, you can't hire us. Consult with us and we can tell you what to look for. We can tell you what to look for when hiring a videographer. And here's what you want to look for when you're hiring a videographer. Number one, if you go to their Instagram page or their website and you see their work and it is super creative, like super duper creative, where you see that they're using all of these gadgets. And it's almost like when you watch a video, the focus of the video is the editing and not actually what the video is about. That's not someone that you want to go with, because you don't want your recap video to be gimmicky. You don't want your content to be off focus. And most of the time, in my experience, I was never the videographer that would be super duper creative in terms of like what I put on the screen. However, when I first started watching YouTube, there was a style that I liked, and I kind of stuck to that style. I shot everything handheld. I was always trying to create something new and novel to me.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is the content that I'm making for you ain't about me.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's your own like creative process, like you experimenting with different formats, and that
Yeah.
actually makes you better at what you do, right? So what are some of those elements that really make a successful video?
So earlier I talked about the stuff that you have to have and then
Mm-hmm.
the stuff that you want to have, right?
Mm.
If the purpose of your video is to get people to come to the next event, get people to purchase, content is like money. We want to put our money to work. We got to put our
I like
content to work.
that. Content is like
It
money.
is.
That's a bar. Okay, got it. Go ahead.
It
Go
is.
ahead.
When you are deciding on a videographer and you're in discussions about what the recap video is going to look like, you have to think about what is the work that I want this content to do. Am I trying to get people back to the next event? Am I trying to do this? Am I trying to do that? Based on that, you communicate that to the videographer, and then the most important thing in a recap video, or the most important content that you will get from the event, is the testimonials from the people who are attending the event, because that's social proof that's going to get people to the next one. And based on the goal, based on the work that you want the recap video to do, you're able to craft your questions for the people who are going to be giving the testimonial. You'll be able to craft those questions so that they answer them honestly, but that they answer those questions in a way that supports the work that you want that recap video to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I hear you saying is, number one, you got to know what the intention of this video is, right? Regardless of however it turns out. Well, not regardless of, you want it to be quality, right? But you also want to be intentional about what is the context that this video is going to be used in. Is it going to be, for content repurposing, for you to sell a ticket for the next event or the next quarterly event, however often you're going to be doing it? And also, you're going to make sure that you're getting social proof or testimonials from people who are there on the spot, right? So let's talk about the testimonials.
To me, the testimonials are the most important part.
Right, exactly.
I tell my team all the time. I tell my team all the time, if you're not getting testimonials, if we miss the testimonials, that's the money that just went out the door.
I absolutely agree, because I have been a part of events before where they have the recap video and there is not one single testimonial from anyone. It might just be like, you could tell that people are having a great time, right? It looks like a lit event. It looks amazing. But there's not one single person who is saying anything about the event. And I've attended events before too, where the production team, like they come up, hey, would you like, and it's very organized and methodical. You have like the step and repeat that they want you to talk in front of. They have the questions queued up. So typically when you're working with an event host, like who is the person who is crafting the questions? Are you crafting the questions? Are you working with their event production team? What is a typical format? And like, how is that information disseminated? Because I think sometimes there could be that gap from, what the event host might expect to what the video production team might give.
So we host a pre-production meeting before the event, and we use that as an opportunity for us to educate the client on what they can expect, but also to help the client educate us on their messaging. So we've got questions that we ask them because we need to understand what the event is supposed to be about. We got to understand the pain points of the people that are attending the event, the pain points of the people that are going to attend the next one. And so from that, we do craft questions. We let them know that we're going to make some questions. We send them the questions that we plan on asking. We encourage them to add questions that they want us to ask. And based on the number of people that are going to be at the event, we may be able to ask all the questions. We may have to just cut it to 2 or 3, depending on how many testimonials we need to get. Some events, I was telling a friend of mine earlier who's an event organizer that, the events that you have that have a person that's coming they're a big name, okay? a big name person, you have them come into your event, they're gonna deliver, but your event also has to deliver. So like if the event is the main attraction, the testimonials, when we ask, how was the event? They don't need to say, well, such and such came on stage and it was amazing. Every single question we ask is about that person. That doesn't help your
really
event. But
Absolutely.
a lot of times that happens. Like they left it inspired, and that's important, right? That's an intangible, but they need to leave with action items. They need to leave with tangible assets. And
I think that depends on the type of event that it is too, right? Because I do feel that for someone who might just be starting out, they've never started a business before, they don't even have a side hustle. For them, it's really like, I just need to be motivated enough to do this thing, right? I just need some inspiration. I need to see that some people are actually doing it, right? But as you progress within your entrepreneurial journey, like now you're trying to learn skills. So I think that it's a differentiator in terms of what type of event it is. But I absolutely 100% agree with you. Your main speaker can't be the only person who's dropping gems, right? Or giving game. Like it has to be approached in a very holistic way. And truth be told, a lot of times I see event hosts who they think that, and I've been guilty of this myself too with my own events that I organize, where you think that by having a larger known person that's gonna help you with marketing because that person's gonna be pushing out the flyer. A lot of times that's not the case. They might post the day of, the day before. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they do for their fans, but they're bringing their audience. And then here's the other part to that. Things work well when there's alignment. So if you're having an event that may or may not, like we don't know if people are going to get anything out of it. Well, we didn't ask enough questions in the planning of that event. When I say we, I mean we, the event planning team. And that kind of segues me into another point. It's that the production team that's going to be helping you with your event, they're a part of the event planning team. It needs to be a partnership instead of work for hire. I want to grab me a mercenary from over here because I just need them to record this stuff. And we'll
not
just,
a mercenary.
Basically, that's how people roll.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, most of the problems come from miscommunication, poor communication, things that could be solved by asking all the questions. That event is a business, right? You got a business checking account for it. You got, and you've got a team of people that are going to be helping. For your regular business, you don't get anybody that you see has the tools to do the job and then just say, okay, cool, let's get it. As small business entrepreneurs, some of us are trying to hand 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 roles to our team, but because of cost, it's the communication of value. There's a disconnect between the understanding of the value that a production team that's a partner with you on your content brings, even though they fill in more of that budget. And here's the value that adds. When we work with you on your event, we're going to ask you, what's the purpose? What's the goal? What are you trying to accomplish with this event? Are you trying to sell something at the end? You trying to get people to the next event? What's the purpose? Okay, cool. Here are the questions that we plan on asking during the testimonials. What answers do you expect to get from these questions? What do you want the testimonial answers to say? And are those answers gonna help you achieve the goal you're trying to accomplish with this event? In that line of questioning, you're gonna realize whether or not you're on the right path, I believe.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like that question even prompts someone who might not be thinking about it. Like, what are some things that I need to make sure that I incorporate so that the testimonials that I get is exactly what I would want it to be? It's like kind of like thinking with the end in mind. So I think that is such a powerful way of making sure that you get what it is that you want to get. And I love what you talk about with integrating the production team into everything, right? One of the things that I love to do is just making sure that the videographer or photographer, like they know what's happening within the run of show, and everything is broken down into very minute steps of what is happening throughout the day, so that they know like what's happening, who's going to be on stage at what time, if there's a shift or a change, and that's something that's going to be communicated. And beyond that, it's like, where is the person going to come from, so you can kind of cue that up. If the person going to walk out the door on the left or the door on the right, like those are some of the small details that actually matter in terms of what it is that you're going to capture and how amazing and dynamic your video is going to be. So let's talk about, what are some of the challenges that you've experienced, right? Aside from some of the things that we've talked about before, what are some other challenges that you have experienced when you work on events, and you want to make sure that for someone who's a business owner who's going to be hosting their event to maximize for profits, these are some of the things that they should be mindful of, so that you can do, or someone like you can do their jobs best?
I think that having a partnership attitude is the only answer that you need for that, because in my experience, everybody who's hosting an event, that's a very hectic situation to find yourself in.
Oh yeah.
Especially if you haven't done it before and this is your first one and you're trying to do it yourself.
For sure.
That's an immense amount of pressure. And when you are, and so like to that end, like everybody's first of all like doing the best they can, but the best thing that you can do for yourself is to communicate and find someone, communicate clearly and communicate often. And this goes for videographers as well, because it's not only on the business owner that's trying to host the event to make it a success. It's a partnership. And so all the issues that I've had in my career, I would say probably 85 to 90% of them were because of me, not because of the client. It was because of something that there was always something that I could have done. One of the earliest lessons that I learned, I was working with Andre Norman, a great guy. He told me about this, and it's a blessing to have to work with clients or work with people who are just candid with you, because in this business world with so many feelings and stuff like that, you got to give clients permission to like tell you what it really is, or else they just not gonna, work with you no more.
Yeah.
So anyway, one of the things that he told me was, it's always good to be updated. It's always good to get an update. And that was my style of working, is that we talk about what we got to do and we ain't got to have that discussion no more.
Oh my God. I'm the same way.
I'm gonna do it. So,
but to your point, so we know that we're doing the best job, right, at that time, and there's nothing that really needs to be communicated, but on their end, it's like, oh my God, what's happening? So yeah, I love that. So go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it was like, cool, the client just sees, and sometimes they don't see me. I'm very quiet. I'm very deliberate in how I move. So like the client doesn't see us, but it's like something happening on stage. And it's like, they don't know if we got that content or not. And at that time, I wasn't communicating with them because we didn't need to. We got it, But even keeping them up to date, that moment on stage right then was fire, and we got all of it. You know what I mean?
You're like, you learned.
That makes somebody that makes them feel at ease. So now, because it's their event, and so if you're hosting an event, there's so much going on in your head, because that event is a representation of you and it's live, and you don't want you don't, if you care about your reputation, you don't want the event, you don't want anything about the event to go wrong.
Yeah.
And so you also, it's a job to have to go and check with everybody to make sure everything is still going smoothly. And if you're that type of person, some people aren't. But if you're that type of person, it's just helpful for your video production team to just keep you updated. You know, hey, we said at this time we were gonna go and do this. We got that. All of those testimonials were good. We got 3 more people that you said you really wanted to get a testimonial from. We asked all 3 of them. They're enjoying the show right now, which is great. We're gonna ask them again, but after that, we're probably gonna need you to step in since you got a closer relationship to get them to come. Versus the end of the event, you looking through your footage. Hey, where's the stuff from this person, and that person? They didn't want to get up. It's like, what?
Yeah,
you didn't tell me.
yeah. But that's where like a shot. So for example, like whenever I'm working on events, I always have a shot list, you know, that for with the videographer and the photographer, right? So we know like these are all of the things that we want to capture. And you know, and then that becomes like a communication between the event manager and the production team versus the event host, who is now on stage having to deliver, show up confidently and sell from the stage, and have to be worried about whether or not, you know, all these things are happening in the background. And I think it really comes down to trust. It's having that pre-planning team so that everybody kind of gels together, and then there is a level of trust as you go throughout, and so that when you're at the event now, it's not a situation that, well, I wonder if XYZ got it right. You know, I think it's trust and communication.
It's a communication thing. Yep. But if you're working with a person for the first time and they're not updating you, you know, that could be a thing. But also from the communication standpoint, even we ask, you know, during the event, who is it that we have direct access to when something is not going right? Who do we need to go and talk to? Because to your point, the event host is trying to host. So they may not be the person to be coming to about that stuff. They may have a designated person that's running the show that day. And that's another important question to ask. It's like, hey, who do we need to talk to whenever we need to?
Yeah, and put together a shot list, y'all. You know, really go through.
Yeah, videographers probably love working with you.
Yeah, for sure, because they know exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
You know exactly what's happening at what time, and I'm constantly communicating, because I think that that's important, because I think that everything works together in this like integrated symbiotic way, and I think the less confusion that there could be, then the better the experience is overall, not only for attendees and for the host, but for everybody involved in the production team. So yeah, and that's, you know, something that's easy and pretty simple. So even if you don't have an event manager, like you could go through that yourself. So then let's talk about the final question before we close out with our final question. I saw a post that you had on social media about, you know, the event recap videos, storytelling versus hype, right? In terms of what it looks like. So what is your preference? Why is that? And, you know, kind of walk people through like what those two things might look like.
Okay. So our whole interview today has been us talking about certain things, and I've been trying to give examples, aka stories, to help things make more sense and become more relatable. I'm no psychiatrist or psychologist, but I know that stories entertain me more than just the information. So if you take that element of storytelling to a recap video, if I wanted to make a 30-second recap video of a party, I could easily just show clips of the party, not have any rhyme or reason of why I show the clips. I just show that stuff. You know what I mean? It's not gonna fit. It's not gonna feel right. Intuitively, humans understand story. That's what entertains us. So I've got a process of storytelling. I'm a natural at it, but I have to be able to teach my team because they edit, and it follows what's called the hero's journey, which most filmmakers and videographers are familiar with the concept. Basically, there's multiple steps to it, but it's basically how all movies are made, everything, okay? But here's the basic, the bare bones part about how to story tell. You have to have a hero. They have to go on a journey, and they have to end up where they started, having changed.
Oh, that's good.
So
yeah, okay, go ahead. I've heard of Joseph Campbell's the Hero's Journey. I've heard of the book, but I never thought about it in terms of video. And as you were saying that, each step of the journey, I was just visualizing like what that looks like in the context of an event experience, and it makes it feel so much more explosive and impactful. How do you show that in the context of an event experience?
you unfold the process. You don't just give the information. So what makes someone watch the whole video is that they are anticipating what's going to happen next, but they don't really know. So let's say you have an event. Let's say your event is there. I don't know why I keep choosing the MGM brand, but let's say it's there. And and let's say you have a recap video and you host an event where you're teaching other people about how to host events. Okay. Mm-hmm. And let's say you got some speakers there, you're speaking, you got David Shands there, you got, a lot of other big name people there, right? Mm-hmm. Imagine if someone made you a video and the first clip in the video was the music starting with you on stage speaking. And then we show David Shands on stage speaking. We show the other speakers kind of on stage speaking in successive order. You see the audience, and then you see clips of the activities later on that you get involved in. David is on stage again. He's kneeling down, talking to someone that's in front of the stage. And then the speakers that you already saw earlier are also doing stuff throughout the video. Well, that's not going to be a very entertaining video because you saw the speakers already. Now you're seeing the speakers do stuff, and it's just kind of like a hodgepodge of clips that don't really fit together. But then imagine the video opens, somebody else edits your video, and the video opens with you showing like the skyline of Las Vegas with the MGM Grand in view. And then the next clip that you see is like the steps going up to the entrance of the MGM Grand with a car where a door opens and a leg and a heel step out the door. And then
that's already so much doper. Listen, you don't even need to say anything else. Like that already made me, it pulls you in, invites you to want to stick around and watch to see what's happening at the end. Yeah. That's why he's a videographer extraordinaire, y'all. So I don't even feel like we need to even kind of go into the differences, because the way you just painted that picture, it makes so much of a difference, and it makes me want to go to this imaginary event that we just talked about. And I think a lot of times people feel like it gotta look hype. It gotta look like it was, this big ball of energy. But what you're saying is, yeah, you can kind of pull it back. You can still have that same energy, but really tell a story that leads to this big crescendo at the end, right? And it leaves you, the person who's watching, wanting more. So I love that. All right, so we had an amazing conversation. I feel like this was great. We went really deep and really wide. And so I feel like with this episode, guys, you are well on your way to either hire your first videographer, upgrade your videographer, and just make sure that you are getting and making the most impact that you can make with your event videos. All right. So before we close out, Ryant, what is one last gem that you want to leave people with? This could be something that we haven't discussed today, or maybe something that's action oriented that you'd like to leave people with.
One thing that I want to, that's a tough question. I left it all on the field, I feel.
You did. I know you got one more in there.
Let's see.
It doesn't have to be anything related to the work that you do. It could be, personal, life related, anything from any topic.
I'll keep it. I'll keep it on this topic. I think that I'll leave this. Real Designs Media is a media company, but so is your company. If you're a small business owner and you work with people, you have to be able to communicate with them, and content is how you're going to do that. So if you start thinking about a media company, hopefully that'll put you into a mindset of partnership versus work for hire or freelancer. You consider the videographer or videographers or the production team that you work with as part of your team. And when you start to think like that, content will miraculously become less of a challenge and a headache if it's a headache.
I love it. I love it. Think about yourself as a media company, y'all. So it's really a shift and a reframe that some of us have to go through, myself included. So thank you so much, Ryan, for being here. Thank you for dropping all these gems. Thank you for being my first male guest on the Event Gems podcast.
Let's make sure I'm not the last.
I know. Listen, y'all, I'm gonna be working to diversify my guests. Okay. But Ryan, I really acknowledge you for the work that you do, for the stories that you tell, and the incredible vibes that we've been able to connect on. If you like what you hear on this podcast, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, I hope you caught those gems. Now, let's fly.